Hello and welcome to the Smartest Moron, where today we're celebrating quite a lot of things, in fact. We're celebrating my second year on YouTube, we're celebrating a game that my friends have been dying for me to cover, and also Dragon Quest's 30th anniversary, which just passed, but hey, we're still in the same year, it still counts. And the best news of all, it's actually a good game, as opposed to some of the other scripts I'm writing.
I originally got into the series not with the original games, but the monster spin-offs. Basically Pokemon clones that could be unforgivingly hard and straight up told me my monsters were dead, and yet that's why I loved it. I was turned off from using human party members in the main numbered series with 1 and 2. I did eventually get around that fear and beat Game 1, whereas Game 2 I got stuck on it and the game refused to tell me what to do next. I remind you that I lacked the internet at the time. Hell, I didn't get internet until college. I would not revisit the series until the PS2 era, with Dragon Quest VIII, the first of the Dragon games to be called Quest instead of Warrior like every other title before then. Back in the day, I remember watching G4, specifically X-Play, and hearing how the Dragon Quest game was more popular than Final Fantasy in Japan, and the love was reversed here in the States. Though I wouldn't be surprised if that changed given all the goddamn 13 games in the past few years. Still, not like we didn't get more games on the DS, and both 7 and 8 are coming to the 3DS soon. But what drew me to this particular game? What about it mesmerized me into actually buying it?
The art was done by Akira Toriyama. I saw a trailer on G4, I saw the main hero turn Super Saiyan with the whole high tension thing or whatever, and I assumed it had something to do with Dragon Ball Z. I was a very, very, very stupid kid.
It was also very different from previous entries, as it was the first Dragon Quest game to feature voice acting in Europe and North America. Yeah, Japan never actually got those voices, until the 3DS version. Hell, for Europe, it was the first main Dragon Quest game to arrive there. Also, apparently some of the voice actors were actually from a British drama show or something, which certainly explains some performances. In order to maximize sales for the game though, Square shipped each copy with a demo of Final Fantasy XII. That honestly didn't tempt me too much, though I did enjoy the demo and 12 as a whole later on, despite what other people say about it. I admit I may need to play 12 again to get a better opinion of it, but I do remember thinking Dragon Quest VIII is a superior game to that.
Let's see if this game can live up to those perfect scores that most reviewers gave it. This is Dragon Quest VIII, Journey of the Cursed King.
Much like other old RPGs hitting consoles, Dragon Quest VIII is now set in 3D environments that are fairly easy on the eyes thanks to Akira Toriyama. My only real complaint now is that after playing this years later, these environments feel really empty as there are not many monsters roaming around. Yeah, this game relies a lot on random battles like all the other previous games, and sometimes the encounter rate can be frustrating, mainly near the end of the game when you want to run away. That being said, it can surprise you when you find monsters roaming out on the field, and they usually tend to be much stronger than other types around the area. More on these guys later. Because you lack a map early on in the game, it is possible to get lost and wind up in the wrong place. Thankfully, towns and other areas are noticeable, and even if you die horribly, like I did my first time against this dinosaur, you just lose half your gold and don't lose anything else. Thankfully, there are gold banks around if you fear losing to some random monster on the field. Battles are fairly simple at first since, well, you don't really have many other ways to attack an enemy. As you level up your team, they eventually learn spells, but they can also gain skill points. These in turn are used to level up a character's rank in 5 different areas. 3 are usually reserved for weapons, 1 is for using no weapons, and a unique tree for each character to learn more exclusive abilities. Because you don't gain that many skill points all the time, spreading them out evenly is probably the worst thing you can do. Rather, if you stick with certain skill trees, you are rewarded with more and more powerful abilities that can make all the difference in some fights. For example, Angelo's Shining Shot is a great attack to hit all enemies at once early on in the game, whereas having certain axe or spear skills with the hero and Yangus can help in eliminating metal monsters. Also new to combat is Psyching Up. Each time it's done, the character's psych level rises from 5 to 20 and then 50, and can easily deal massive amounts of damage to enemies. And should you constantly use up Psyching to 50, eventually you can reach a new level, 100, where a character undergoes an incredible transformation. Hell, the hero even nearly turns into a freaking Super Saiyan. And while this may seem like it can break the game, certain bosses can just reset all stat buffs, including psych levels, so you need to learn when you can get away with it, or simply rely on a fight without it. Which is still possible, of course. That being said, the same tactics aren't always effective on every enemy. Some enemies are immune to certain magic attacks, some take less physical damage, and much more. Overall, the difficulty of the game is really determined both in how you utilize your skills and what skill trees you decide to focus on. It's overall a really simple but effective combat system, and moves at a fairly quick pace. You know, say for when the game needs to slow down whenever someone is going to use a spell or special ability. It's not a long wait, but it's very noticeable. Characters also have their own inventory, so item management is still a large factor, and certain items can be incredibly useful when put on the right character. Hell, use the alchemy paw enough and you might get enough healing items, you may not need a dedicated healer for some fights. Though not all the time, and this will require a lot of work. And while the skill tree can make characters more effective in combat, certain characters will always be better at certain roles. For example, Yangus will be a crappy healer due to his low MP pool and only learning weak healing spells, so he's better off as a tank and damage dealer. Character designs are also great too in both design and animation, though I know some would have issues regarding certain outfits. Though I will defend why this is okay with Jessica here later, but I assure you, I will not be distracted by bunny girls who are dancing and the bikinis. Jessica for Senran Kagura.
I can even feel how soft they are. Can you imagine the... Oh my god, I am so sorry. I made a boob. I made a blunder. Change the topic. I'm not being distracted. Well, the 3DS actually changes some of these designs, but whatever. I'm not really that upset about them. Hell, Red's outfit is actually an improvement since it's no longer a frickin' battle thong, which never made any sense to me. Please stop thinking I followed that.
This game, though, does have some frustrating elements. One of them is how turns are determined in a fight. Now early on, this isn't too frustrating as battles are fairly simple depending on your skills. Having multi-heal with Angelo has saved my ass a bunch of times, but then bosses eventually do start to get much harder and hit harder while having 2 turns, leading characters to be KO'd if they're weak enough. So if they move before your healer despite moving dead last in the last round, your character is kinda screwed, but it doesn't make the game impossible, just inconsistent and sometimes annoying in the latter half. Now, my main problem with the gameplay are the AI of the monsters you can summon in fights. See, the main character can gain the ability after a small side quest to summon a monster team, which can also be used in the arena, but they cannot be given actual direct commands. You know how in Persona 3, at least the original and not the superior PSP version, man, that is not something I can say often, your characters had different ways of approaching combat, and sometimes very dumb ways, like Mitsuru and the stupid Marin Karin spell. My point is that you can at least somewhat adjust their AI to help, since otherwise some fights would be unwinnable, and even they are smart enough not to constantly attack a foe with the same damn spell. Not so much with the monster AI here that attacks the wrong freaking targets. Sometimes they will waste turns not healing or uselessly psyching up since summon monsters only last 3 to 4 turns. So for summoning, it's mainly about who can produce hits and only hits. As for the arena, it's mostly you have to get lucky for things that go right. Still, depending on how strong you are, these monster teams can help make random battles seem extremely simple. And I eventually relied on them because, well, random battles later on get annoying really damn quickly. And after maxing out the Courage skill tree, cost way less MP to summon those guys as opposed to tiring out my entire team by wasting their MP. But battles are still longer, of course, due to the lack of super moves being used unless your team has death moves based on who is in the party, like summoning the Amazing Mazin! Or if they are too dumb enough to make that. God damn this AI! Thankfully, some of these flaws have been fixed in the 3DS version coming out. At least based on trailers I have seen. No idea about the monster AI, but we can only pray. I am so sick and tired of losing the Mori due to goddamn luck and stupidity. But overall, the combat holds up fairly well. Though expect a lot of grinding for 2 reasons, money and experience. You see, the required amount of experience for each level is insanely high, especially later on, and early on you gotta level to maybe level 5 or 6 in order to get past the first dungeon. And later on, it requires you to find liquid metal and king metal slimes in order to make the process less painful. Not trying to master spears or axes will only make this process just hard. How painful? Well, in order to get to level 65 to learn the best skill for the hero, and not needed for the final boss mind you, it took me over 100 hours, due to me mucking up the skill trees. Gold is also not in plenty supply, but that at least has some kind of trick to it by using the alchemy to craft decent gear and sell it for a high price. Though of course this also involves a lot of waiting by walking around, as time for it is judged by steps, so you might as well keep grinding when that happens anyway. Plus, after playing this game for so long, I tend to get a bit overexcited at seeing the metal monsters. Especially...
Metal slimes. Experience points. Massive levels. Stay perfectly still. I'll treat you like a hospitable guest. My Mine, 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 mine!
But overall, Dragon Quest VIII still holds up fairly fun in the simple gameplay department. While grinding in this game, however, it does make me realize why some people, or even companies for that matter, don't really like turn-based combat in consoles anymore. Time consumption. With a handheld like the 3DS, I can put it on standby and come back to it another day, or save points are more convenient. Honestly, as technology advances and becomes more convenient, patience will continue to slip from other people, myself included. It's just a theory I have as to why we see less turn-based games on consoles. Hell, after playing Disgaea 4 on my Vita TV and grinding for so damn long, I'd rather play it on a regular Vita. Though I don't because, well, money and need to record the footage. I don't think that Dragon Quest VIII is inferior, far from it, and I'll show more evidence of that as we examine the story.
Well, I'm glad you asked. The story of how me and the Gov fell in together is an epic tale, full of laughter, thrills and tears.
The plot of the game is refreshingly simple and won't require a damn textbook to understand, which, considering what games I do plan to review, it is a freaking godsend. That being said, it has a very slow start as you play as one of the king's soldiers who is traveling with said king and princess, who have been turned into a monster and a horse. Trude in particular isn't happy about the ordeal given how most people in the world hate monsters. You know, unless they can control them like they're friggin' Pokemon. I make a joke about fantasy worlds being fickle, but our world ain't exactly better when we consider electing real monsters. Hint hint. It's eventually revealed they, along with the former bandit Yangus, are traveling around the world to find the evil Dolmagus. Basically a less crazy Kefka. Aside from reversing the curse, they hope to bring him to justice as Dolmagus stole a prized scepter and cursed an entire castle filled with people. Also, well, here's the thing, he's kinda killing people. Throughout the game, as Dolmagus hunts down certain people, you do gain 2 more party members. Jessica, the fiery sorceress, and Angelo, the self-proclaimed playboy of the group. However, their troubles don't stop there, as the gang is often roped into solving problems for other people who need help, as it is sometimes the only way to actually progress past an area due to roadblocks they set up. So yeah, expect some form of linearity with the storytelling, as some quests you wouldn't expect to be major are necessary in order to move on. Yes, King, I feel sorry that your one and only love has died years ago, but I am chasing a mass murderer. Nut up or be cut up! Joking aside, I do actually enjoy these little detours as they carry a lot of emotion with them. Most of the damn time anyway. Not all the voice acting is perfect, mind you. Now with some of these side quests, one person may be thinking, why even have them? There's clearly a race to stop Dolmagus from killing these people. Time is of the essence, even if Dolmagus likes to take his sweet damn time. Though at the same time, consider this. The gang here loses a lot. And let's face it, we know whoever the bad guy aims to kill, 95% of the time, they are going to win. Some big bad evil will be reborn, or they gain ultimate power, yada yada, so there's going to be a constant amount of people dying or going through their own suffering. Okay, some are more sidetracked than others, but it definitely feels good to at least have some kind of victory, especially for the team, and it further highlights how selfless they can be. Hell, this is one of Trode's best features that keeps him from being some spoiled asshole, as he clearly wants to help people too, at least if their plights relate to his own in some way. I will admit that this kinda makes the villain, well, dumber. If there's a weak point I'll give is that the villains are not terribly interesting. Save for one, but that's very brief. They help create some dire and good situations at least, but if you were to ask me to analyze Dolmagus, the results will be an asshole who wanted power. I'm sure the 3DS adds a tinge bit more scenes and stuff, but it feels evil for the sake of being evil. If there was ever a single overall theme I ever got from the Dragon Quest games, it was just being a good person, and maybe that might be tied to the religion of the game. See, you only save at churches, and it is the only way to do certain stuff, like checking experience points and reviving party members.
Yeah, it's a giant plot hole in this game considering a lot of people frigging die. I don't know, maybe Superboy Prime was right, and we can kill someone to death.
At the same time, while yes, there are many people that use religion for evil purposes, Dragon Quest shows the more positive aspect as everyone worships the goddess. I can't really ever recall we ever see such a being. We see similar beings, but not the end-all goddess or whatever. But the point is that the characters get being nice and helping out others selflessly. Okay, we are doing this with some kind of purpose in mind, but not everyone would stay and help if it involved being nearly eaten by insanely powerful monsters. Hell, this kind of theme is even more present in Dragon Quest IX, where it's literally a game all about self-sacrifice and doing good in the world. But what about everyone else and how they stand on their own? Well, how about we dive into some spoilers now.
So that's how you met. But what happened to all the laughter, thrills and tears?
Well, I'm not finished yet. This is the best bit. I haven't told you about how the Gov helped me go straight.
Whatever. You can tell me all about it later.
I was fully prepared to explore the characters in great depth, but to my surprise, they don't really have all that much. Don't get me wrong, these are very enjoyable characters in their own rights, but, well, they don't really participate in a lot of scenes, mainly in the main story. This is very much an RPG where you have to go out of your way to pick up more lines about the development between the team. This is done both by chatting them up by pressing start, or by going to certain places, usually back to certain characters. So it's likely I missed more stuff with Marcello and Angelo. Yeah, I'm not willing to replay the game for that, but let's start with the non-combatants. Medea was actually my least favorite of the team when I played this back then, mainly because we barely see her doing anything. Now that my brain is not the size of a peanut though, I do see how she contributes to the team, from defending her father in the beginning, to her constantly pulling the wagon where we need the pot, alchemy pot by the way, not real pot, to even reminiscing with the hero about their past. And I also felt that was kind of a weak point for a silent protagonist. Usually silent protagonists have choices or a blank slate for the player to imprint on. It's kinda pointless to have a relationship with the princess already. A good example is with the Demi-Fiend, where he has a history with his friends, but it's left vague enough to fill in the gaps in his personality. Here though, the hero is predetermined to love and marry the princess, which did annoy me because, well, I always liked Jessica more. So that was another reason I didn't like her way back when. But thankfully the 3DS will add scenes, and the princess is a very kind and helpful character, as well as patient, especially given the horrible circumstances, especially given some blunders made by her own dad. And after playing this again, there's no way I can hate a character like this now, especially one who is so self-sacrificing, even willing, sort of, to give up her happiness for the sake of her family. Plus, by visiting a magic lake later and occasionally sleeping at inns, you do get a bit more from her character.
And that's certainly better than having to go through a frickin' data log and trying to figure out what the hell is happening within the damn story. Oh no, this isn't me ragging on Final Fantasy XIII this time. This is something special!
King Trode was also yet another helpful and enjoyable character, having a few moments where he bails out the party, and the one to recognize what will be helpful for the journey, aka the alchemy pod, and saving me many headaches and grinding. He can be selfish at times, though in some cases it's very understandable given how his appearance makes him so hated by other people. But really, it's good to see the royalty in this game, while cursed, are very much active behind the scenes. They aren't combatants, and I'm perfectly fine with it as they clearly contribute in other areas, and care about one another a great deal. Though there is at least one attack where Trode comes in, not that I could get it due to skill tree problems. I made priorities, okay? One thing I did notice about this team is how much of an opposite they are compared to other games I usually see. The main hero is usually the chosen one, or their birth is treated like something incredibly important. We don't find out about the origin of the hero until the bonus dungeon is done. And aside from Dragon Soul and Gigagash, he doesn't really possess a lot of chosen one abilities. Except maybe being immune to curses, of course, and turning Super Saiyan. He starts the game off as a guard for the king and just has a desire to help people. Aside from what I already mentioned with Medea, not much else I can say about him. He's just a guy who wants to help people, and that at least fits in well considering how nice Trode and the princess are. Plus Munchie helping him out too. Thieves are usually thin, quick, cunning, and clever, all the while waiting to stab someone in the back, or maybe just run out on them. Yangus possesses a lot of the opposite traits, while looking like a grunt in a faction of thieves. Plus this dude has such a big heart, I'd have no qualms about him watching my back too. Of course he struggled with that side before meeting the hero, and it's a conflict I'm glad didn't pour over into the main story. Wouldn't that have made too much sense otherwise if there was a constant debate between, oh, should I be a good guy or should I be a thief? We do at least see some conflict with Red though, and a bit of his old self shining as he competes with her. Though puts her safety above all else. If there's any regret Yangus has about his old life, it all mostly ties to Red. There is actually resolution, if the player actually hunts for it, as he is given a weapon to help beat up Rapthorn, with a promise to return it. Of course, any development after that is pretty much off screen. Hopefully this can be expanded more on the 3DS version, since Red will be a playable party member. But he is still a fun character suitable for both combat and comedy.
Cool, blimey!
Sorceresses are usually scantily clad for no reason, and possess great wisdom with a calm demeanor. At least ones I'm used to seeing back then. And kinda currently right now. Jessica can be a bit loud, unafraid to use her magic on a moment's notice, and is even willing to use her sex appeal in a fight to help out the team. Though what's hilarious is that aside from some outfits and distracting foes as a passive, the skill tree is absolutely worthless. I can't help but feel there's some kind of commentary on how useless that crap is in combat. Now I usually have a problem with this only if it doesn't suit the character, or it isn't in a game tailored to that audience, like Senran Kagura. Plus being the only character with special armor aside from the hero, it's easy for someone to just cry out sexism. Yet I can defend this point. To an extent. When we look at Jessica's mom, it's a source of conflict, as Jessica's mom wants her to be proper and more focused on the family legacy, rather than on her own daughter's feelings. And even without the fanservice outfits, Jessica's skills and normal outfit go against it, as the normal outfit does show a generous amount of cleavage, while seeming a bit more adventure-y rather than proper. Plus, Jessica not only utilizes wands and magic, but a whip and knives, eventually learning to use swords if the knife skill tree is filled out. Sexualization is just another weapon to her, one she'll utilize if it gets her an opening to crush bows. True, she hated it when a king leered at her for the sake of his son, but it's more likely it's because she can't hit a king she needs help from. Otherwise, yeah, the dude would probably get whipped. So no, I don't really have a problem with Jessica having these outfits or having sex appeal as a skill because of these reasons. That and one more important thing. Jessica's actually a good character. Her moment of shine comes in when she is possessed by the scepter, or at least afterwards as she moves a bit from being someone about vengeance to doing what is right. Not that she was so vengeance hungry, but the fact that she shows regret at her actions while possessed is a good point, as it does seem to drive her more to defeating Raptorn and preventing more people from dying. Honestly, it's a bit better of a motivation aside from just revenge. I even enjoyed it when after killing Dolmagus, she didn't feel satisfied in getting revenge, showing she knows that wouldn't bring back her brother. The only real downside is a resolution with her mom, which, well, we never flipping see it. I mean, you can kinda see it by going back, but it's done very weakly compared to Angelo and Yangis's development. There even seemed to be a hint at liking the hero when she was saved by him, but it's not really followed up on. Again, the 3DS version is supposed to fix this, especially since Jessica is now a romance option for the hero. Despite some problems here and there, Jessica remains one of my favorite female characters for her incredible determination and strength in not only that whip of hers, but also her heart as well.
Plus, it also helps she didn't go with Angelo as just a lover or something, like so many other games do by pairing these two opposites together or whatever. Seriously, it's a cliche that needs to die as much as Donald Trump's presidential campaign. And no, I'm not letting this go! How the hell did we let this happen?
And as for Angelo, the playboy with a heart of gold or whatever, well, that's actually a common trope I see way too damn often. But it fits well with his character. He's confident in his abilities in fights he knows he can win, but pessimistic against odds he can't foresee. Which is why he probably scolds the hero for being sidetracked a lot. Or maybe he's more logical than I thought when his boner isn't guiding him. It isn't hard to see why when he grew up with a brother that just, well, hated him. They are opposites to the core, from the moves they use in a fight, right down to the clothes they wear. Marcello is hardworking, strict, and doesn't like to waste time. Angelo, on the other hand, shirks duties and goes out to woo women on a daily basis. While early on, Marcello does help out the party in avenging the abbot, and the only father-like figure both he and Alistair had, he later turns into an antagonist. A very brief antagonist, but probably the game's best antagonist. While the plot point does feature some problems I'll later go into, the actual conflict between him and Angelo really surfaces, even showing Angelo simply stunned that Marcello hates him that much. Though that does beg the question, why does he hate him so much? Well, you can actually view a cutscene by staying at the inn of a church to see why, and it is very easy to miss. In fact, I did it by accident. Marcello was born thanks to a cruel man and his mother, who was a maid, all because the dude's wife was unable to give birth after some attempts. You know, until the dude's wife actually did pop out a child named Angelo, and Marcello and his mom were kicked out, creating the hatred Marcello has now. And rather than fade once Angelo is made into an orphan, Marcello still has nothing but hatred in his heart. Yet Angelo wanted to see that kindness from Marcello again, as he was treated nicely before Marcello found out the big news. But it was clear even if Angelo worked hard, that might not have helped things. In fact, that probably would have made things worse in the long run, as Marcello would have to grow even more bitter at Angelo getting more attention. So you can argue, Angelo chose to be who he is, not just for fun, although that's probably a big part of it, but to not interfere with his brother's life anymore. Sure, Angelo broke some rules and made some trouble, but taking away Marcello's hard work, and maybe even usurping him or something, outranking him maybe? Good God, Marcello might have gutted him the moment the abbot died. Maybe before then too, dudes are having even more of a reason to hate him. At least if Marcello was on top, he'd have some kind of happiness, hopefully. It's amazing Angelo didn't turn out more bitter from all this. Sure, Angelo is kind of a dick, but he has a good heart thanks to the abbot, not arguing with the hero with brute force when helping others, and even with a chance of freedom after defeating Domagus since, well, that was his mission and then he could be free. He instead chooses to stay and help Jessica, and eventually help save the world. Granted, this of course is a lot of speculation after observing these guys, and not a lot of this stuff is said outright. Then again, it wouldn't be much of an analysis. The conflict does end, though not on a happy note. When Marcello is about to die and fall, Angelo keeps trying to save him, revealing some of the stuff I just said, though with this added line.
No! I won't let you die! You will go on living, knowing that the brother you despised your whole life took pity on you. I won't let you have everything your own way. You're determined to disgrace me more? You!
Afterwards, Angelo lets Marcello leave without healing his wounds, and is given the Templar ring. The ring might be the one time Marcello might actually acknowledge Angelo was the better man, despite a vow of revenge. I think there are a few more ways to interpret this scene too, though naturally I am more biased in my opinion. Still, it is actually the one ending I can see between these two, as I can't imagine Marcello suddenly turning around and suddenly crying to Angelo with regret. It's a good yet sad end to their little history together. Now for our villain, who is later revealed to be Rapthorn. I refer you to my last notes on the villain. Next. The last extra bit of the game though, with the Dragovians, is really more of a Hero and Munchie exclusive, and it really doesn't add too much to help with an analysis. The basic summary is that the hero of the game is actually half Dragovian, half human, meaning he has at least a fourth of dragon's blood in his body, and nobility as he is the son of Eltrio, who would have been the king instead of Clavius. Being the Dragovian lord does get you the Argon ring, learning about the story, and a slight alternate ending to the game, where we don't beat up the Templars, despite it being satisfying and it automatically makes it inferior. I suppose the one good thing is that Clavius actually realizes how wrong it was for his own son to be wed to Medea, which he already did in the other ending. Honestly, Prince Charmless here is a bit of a roadblock in the ending, and it kinda pisses me off. He's just a brat with no real explanation. Assumptions have to be made about why he's like this. Like maybe because he has no living mom, his father pampered him too much or something. But that doesn't make any sense given how Clavius knew his son would have to go and fight giant frickin' lizards. There is nothing to his character other than spoiled brat, and because Clavius doesn't do a thing until the ending, it all comes across as a gigantic waste of time. It's easily the second biggest problem I have with this game. Okay then, so what's the number one plot hole that makes absolutely no sense? Easy, the prison level. It's filled with so many plot holes and can be easily rewritten in numerous ways. See, after the gang defeats evil Leopold, who has the scepter, just roll with it, Marcello comes rushing in and decides to arrest the party and Rollo, trying to stage a coup for power. Yes, the Templars, who cannot handle a creature that the heroes defeated, are suddenly able to put them in prison so easily. So how do you fix this? Easy, just make the heroes incredibly weakened, maybe even have Marcello use the scepter to deal massive damage to the heroes, since he does kinda turn into a boss later on. Another idea, since they do use the bird form to escape the second time, use it there to escape and fight another day. Maybe have the party leave Angelo behind, or Angelo sacrificing himself to buy time for his weakened friends. Not dying, of course. And that can be planned into a rescue, but better planned since their white mage is gone. But then it just gets worse when they are in a prison, with all of their weapons and gear. I repeat, they're being thrown into a prison at full health with all of their weapons and gear. Bullcrap! Not only do the characters possess powerful abilities, they have the ultimate key, a key able to open anything in the entire world. Moreover, why would you even need guards to monitor prisoners as they wait to die? Seems like an easy way to muck things up when you hand them all their goddamn weapons. Hell, the front of their cell has giant gaps where they can launch spells and arrows from. Oh, and let's not forget one of the most important freaking plot holes. Oh, I don't know, the fact that I kill giant monsters on a daily basis! And perhaps the biggest plot hole is how this is all solved. By filling his stomach with the promise of a gold rosary, when Rollo is decked out with jewelry. Just strip the dudes naked and leave them down there and your problem is solved. And you even make more of a killing than a dumb gold rosary. My weapons are worth more than your salary. Still, despite those segments annoying me to the point that my throat is now actually hurting, it's still not enough to drag the game down into unbearable levels. And that's because these segments don't drag out the game or serve as a roadblock, sort of, like so many other games I know of and covered on this show. Nor does it really betray the spirit or theme of the game. The real main point to understand from Dragon Quest VIII is how simple everything is. There's not really a theme presented not seen in other RPGs. When you get right down to it, the story on the surface seems simple and uninteresting. Yet only when you play it do you understand how well the characters and drama for each situation is written, amplified with mostly good acting and satisfying gameplay. And that's why I like the series. Rather than try to overcomplicate a story for the sake of themes, it focuses on just telling a good story and making as much sense as it can. Sure, it fails in a few areas, but it cannot stop an epic tale like this. And this actually brings me to a complaint I have about other certain stories I covered. Stuff like Dante's Inferno is clearly trying to say more, but the overall basic plot is filled with many holes and such, it's hard to see other messages within the narrative, or those same messages are torn apart due to the characters involved. Or in the case of games like The Third Birthday, they spend so much time trying to make twists or focus on building up themes that I don't have a grasp on the characters as much. Hell, even Xenoblade X's main plot suffers with this towards the end, whereas when that game focused on the characters and side quests, it was so much better, even if they weren't main characters. In short, for the love of God, focus on building your damn characters so we care before you throw in twists and themes. You need to have a status quo before you keep shaking it up. What has interested me though is how the 3DS is going to handle throwing Mori and Red into the main plot as playable characters, as well as adding other scenes to flesh out the characters more. Given the overall simplicity of the game, it'd be really hard to muck this up. What especially has me interested is that Jessica is now a romance option, something I would have died for in the original since she has such a good character in this. I got nothing but faith in the 3DS remake. So please, Square, for the love of God, don't mess this up. Also, give us a goddamn release date already!
So overall, how does Dragon Quest VIII hold up? Well, let me tell you, despite some really dated mechanics now, it's still really damn good.
The game manages to perfectly capture the spirit of Dragon Quest, while introducing neat mechanics like skill trees and the psych up to add more strategy. Plus, given the numerous amount of skills available, every playthrough can be changed up quite a bit. Sadly, random battles can be a bit annoying towards the end of the game, and not being able to predict who can go when during those later parts will be irritating. Unless you use Accelerate, but then again the boss will just debuff that anyway. And the less I talk about the monster AI, the better. The plot has a few irritating points as well, and doesn't go incredibly too deep with its characters, but again, it'll take more than that to bring this game down for me. Especially when a lot of the quests and moments are really damn good and bring the right amount of drama and humor. And despite having a base form of a basic story, it manages to be a satisfying experience with fun characters. Being simple without constant plot twists or paragraphs about its themes also helps it tremendously. Just be prepared to spend a lot of time with it, especially if you are a completionist. Hell, if you are one of those, good luck. I really mean it with no sarcasm. Good freaking luck.
I'm the smartest moron, and if you'll excuse me, I need to keep refreshing the pages on Amazon to find out the release date of the 3DS Dragon Quest games. Update it, you sluts!
Words can't express my thanks for all those who stuck by me all this time. I've jumped onto the YouTubing thing way too late, and getting a following is significantly hard. Even if my subscriber count, this fan base, even if it's small, it makes all the help you guys gave me over the years even more important. Thank you again for giving this small channel a chance. And you can keep further supporting me on Patreon, as well as liking and sharing these videos as well. You can also catch some previous videos like the review of Spec Ops: The Line, a shooter with a surprisingly good story. Other games should take some frickin' notes. Or you can catch my quick review of Lost Planet Extreme Condition, a game I really hoped was much better than it was. I got nothing else to say, but thank you guys again. And hopefully another year on this channel can be possible after college. Until next time.
It's power level. This joke is overdone. That's what I think of it.